Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and happy Valentine's Day. Whether you're single or whether you're in a relationship, I still want to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. It's one of my favorite holidays, whether I'm single or not. It's kind of the day of the year when all the couples act toward each other the way they should act towards each other all year. At least in a perfect world. So today we're going to talk about relationships and the doctor. And I want to know, what are your thoughts on the doctor being in any kind of romantic relationship, be it with a companion or just in general? Are you completely against it? Are you completely for it? You fall somewhere in the middle, or it depends? Usually I prefer Classic Who's approach to where they have the more platonic friendship. I just like that better. It just seems less complicated and you can focus more on the story and less on that. Now there were a couple times in Classic Who where it's done so, I don't even want to say subtly. It's done so potentially lightly that it's kind of, if you want it to be that way in your mind, it can, but if you don't want it to be, then it's not. One example, of course, is Tom and Sarah, which is something that really gets expanded upon in School Reunion in the modern series. Now, they do come across as best friends, and I think the only person he called best friend back in Classic Who, unlike the modern show where he calls everybody that. And you always feel there's this bond between the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane, the strong bond. And a lot of that is just due to Elizabeth and Tom having such good chemistry together. But I can always see that. I mean, you can see them as just really good best friends, or if you want to see that as a potential relationship, I think the chemistry between them works. It's why when it really hints more toward that in School Reunion about her having affection for him and him having that more romantic also affection possibly for her, which is why he couldn't go back for her. It works for me. That's perfectly valid because I can see that kind of potential chemistry between them. Another one for me is with 3 and Joe. And I know some people might not see it that way because of course there's an age difference there, but I think that's maybe one of the reasons why it never blossomed into that. Like, Joe even tells the doctor, excuse me, that Cliff Jones he's kind of like a younger version of you. And so I have to wonder, what if like a younger version of the Doctor had met Joe and been exiled? Like, what if Matt Smith's Doctor or David Tennant's Doctor or Peter Davison's Doctor had been the Doctor exiled on Earth? If he had regenerated into one of those faces for his third incarnation, could something maybe have developed between them more? Again, I'm not saying that's necessarily the truth. You can also see that as more of a paternal thing. But it's just a little bit of hint of that there, to where if somehow they ever made that some kind of canon, like Joe saying she could have seen that happening, maybe, it wouldn't be far-fetched from my mind. It wouldn't throw me off. Because especially the way the Third Doctor reacts to her leaving, because he's not a very emotional doctor. He's a very stiff upper lip British fighter, James Bond type. So that's one of the reasons why her exit in the Green Death and his reaction to it is so good. It's such a good companion exit. Because you just get this sense of so much that's not being said. It's the same thing when Sarah leaves at the end of Hand of Fear. You really get this palpable sense of there's so much not being said in both of those things. And those are really the only times in Classic Who where I can see a potential romance. Because most of the others, I mean, like the Second Doctor and Zoe is very much a paternal thing. Same thing with the Second Doctor and Vicky. It's very much a paternal thing, or kind of like the crazy but fun uncle, like that. It always feels more like that, like a family relationship. And I love those. I love Zoe, and I love how the Second Doctor gets along with Zoe and Victoria. It very much feels like a dad or a stepdad or an uncle type relationship. Same thing with Vicky and Hartnell, of course, that very paternal grandfather-like almost relationship. And even with like Leela, it never feels romantic. It feels more like a teacher with a student. He's trying to educate her and civilize her, is how that feels. And oddly enough, Romana and the Doctor never feels romantic to me. Interesting, considering, Tom and Lala were very close and ended up getting married. But I never get that sense of a relationship between them. I always think of them more as, I think with Mary Tam, it might be more like teacher and student, but with Lala Ward and the Doctor, it feels like cousins, you know? Kind of like cousins. Kind of reminds me of some of my cousins sometimes. You know, they really feel the way they interact, I guess because they're both Time Lords, so they're kind of on the same page, where she might have more book smarts, but he has more street smarts and experience. It definitely has that more cousins feel to it. And I love it. It's great. I like that in season 17 and season 18, where he's just maybe the older cousin. Maybe he's like 3 or 4 years older than she is, so he's a little more experienced about how life works. I enjoy that. I do enjoy that. And then none of the 80s companions really feel like relationships material, although Six and Perry argue like an old married couple sometimes. Never feel it. And then, of course, with Ace and Seven, it's very much a teacher-student relationship. I always get that from them, which really helps when she calls him Professor. Now, I don't mind, like some people do in the TV movie, McGann and Grace being a lot closer and them kissing. I don't mind that, because I kind of like the idea of the Eighth Doctor being a romantic. And plus, I was like, you know, I was in my mid-teens when the TV movie came out. I was right at that age where I could really connect and click with that. Paul McGann is so good as that kind of optimistic romantic. You know, he's just full of energy, full of life at this point in his life, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that. It works. I don't mind an incarnation of the Doctor actually having a romantic side, and I think the TV movie actually gets the balance right to where it's there, but it's not over the top, overdone like we see it so much in the modern show. They just have that little kiss. There's a little bit of a flirtation in the eyes. And that's really it. You know, you get that idea of maybe they want to travel together, but they don't. And it actually works really, really well. Now, the modern series, its biggest problem is that it does the romance thing too much. It's old hat now for the modern show. Now, at the time when Rose and Ten were doing their little romance thing, it didn't bother me. Again, I was in around my mid-20s at the time. It didn't really bother me. Looking back on it now, it's very grating. Now that I'm into my 40s, it's cringy at times. It's a little odd, much like people point out with Twilight. You have this guy who's hundreds of years old with this girl that's like 18. And don't get me wrong, Billy Piper and David Tennant have good chemistry, just like Eccleston and Billy Piper had good chemistry. And there's even little hints at more than just friendship, even with Eccleston there. Little hints, little things. But it kind of gets carried away in series 2 to the point to where the ending is so drawn out and drawn out and drawn out. And then in series 3, we got Martha having the big crush on him, but him mooning after Rose. And I love series 3. I love series 3. But it does get a little grating when he's always going on about Rose, and Martha's like, Rose. And I'm sitting here going, Rose. Which is a shame, because Martha's such a good character. And I love the fact that Martha's decision to leave is because she finally realizes, you know, I like him and he's never going to look at me like that. It's a lot of character growth Martha has over this series and later. But I love the fact that that's why she left, as she realized it was toxic for her to be in that, especially since the 10th Doctor knows. I mean, if you've watched, Infinity Quest, whatever it is, you know, he knows there that she likes him, and he never talks about it, much like what 11 does with Yaz. We'll get there. So the Doctor, when he's in that kind of uncomfortable situation, instead of approaching it, he just kind of, we're just going to pretend that's not a thing. It's kind of crappy of the 10th Doctor to do. He's a very human Doctor, and that's a very human thing to do, to be honest. It's kind of crappy. But I love the fact Martha leaves. And I love the fact that Martha grows afterwards, too. Like when she shows back up in Series 4, she's really grown as a character. I really enjoy that. I love Series 4 because of Donna and the Doctor and Donna. It has some great episodes, but I love having what is a completely platonic friendship duo here. We don't really get that a lot in modern Who. Although I do love the running joke that everybody thinks they're together. No, we're not. That's funny. That is funny. Especially that one. I like that one Donna's talking to. What? You think you saying you can tell I'm single? You think I'm single? What, you think I can't get a man? Donna's easily my favorite modern companion. One of my favorite companions. Catherine Tate is just so good in that role. And her and Tennant have great chemistry together. They bounce off each other really well. They do comedy so well together. Some of the funniest scenes in Doctor Who are in Series 4. And so I love having that. My biggest issue with Midnight is not that there's anything wrong with the episode, but that it takes away an episode we could have had more of the Doctor and Donna together, which is my main issue with, what was it, turn left, turn right, whatever it is, turn left, whatever. My main issue with it is it's one more Dr. Donna episode we could have had with them together, but we didn't get. Those are my main frustrations with those episodes, is the episodes I didn't get because of them. And then we had Matt Smith's era, and we had everything going on with Amy, and then everything going on with Clara, and everything going on with River. River! I liked River in the library two-parter. Alex is good in that role, period. But I don't know, the more we saw of River, the more I got tired of seeing River, although I really do enjoy her in the Husbands of River songs with Capaldi as well. I don't know. I feel like her and Matt Smith don't have the best chemistry together. I mean, they're both great actors. They're both doing a good job in their parts. I don't ever buy them as a couple. I never buy them in a relationship. I never buy that. Amy and the Doctor was funny, and I'll come back to why in a moment, actually. Let me go ahead and skip past that. I'll come back to that. 11 and Yaz. Once again, toxic relationship, just like with Martha and the Doctor. And again, not 11 and Yaz, 13 and Yaz. Series 11 is what I was thinking of. 13 and Yaz. This doesn't work because once again, the Doctor does this crappy thing of obviously knowing Yaz has these feelings and just ignoring them. The way she doesn't talk to Graham about the cancer when he brings that up. God, that's such an awful scene. Awful scene. I didn't even feel like I was watching Doctor Who. I felt like I was watching Dr. Pooh. And again, 13 does that. And I love the fact Dan calls her out on that in Eve of the Daleks when he's trying to talk to her about Yaz. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, Dan. I don't get what you're saying, Dan. And the Doctor's like, no, I think you do. I think you understand more than you let on. I like that. I love that conversation. I love the fact Dan picks up on that. He can read her. I love that scene. The problem with Yaz and 13 was that it was shoved in at the 11th hour because it was supposed to be fan service. The fans wanted it. And if you had started planting those seeds in like Series 11 early and they'd really had a chance to grow, it could have worked better. I still would have hated it simply because I'm sick and tired of relationships in Doctor Who and in modern Who. I'm just burned out on it by this point. So I still wouldn't have liked it, but it would have made more sense. Instead of getting little glimpses of it in Series 12 and then really trying to shove it in, like from Revelation of the Daleks and Flux, which was short anyway, and then these last few specials, it just doesn't work. It's a very toxic relationship. And it would have been a toxic relationship no matter what the genders were involved. Even if it was a traditional man and a woman, it still would have been a toxic relationship, just like Tin and Martha was a toxic relationship. It was very toxic for Martha. And again, it was toxic like that for Yaz. I did a whole video talking about why Phasman was not the, fist punch in the air that some of the LGBTQ community might have thought it was. Is because it's just another good example of a bad relationship. And don't get me wrong. Gay relationships, trans relationships, they're just like hetero relationships in the sense that there's good ones, there's bad ones, and they all require work. They can be toxic, they can be amazing. So don't get me wrong, it's showing you that kind of relationship could happen where it could be toxic. I mean, I always feel relationships between trans relationship or a homo relationship, just like a hetero relationship, can be good, bad, or anywhere in between. you never know how a relationship's going to go. But this one, it just felt so much done at the 11th hour and crammed in just so, you know, they could kind of parade around. Hey, we did it, y'all. We did Phasma. Aren't we awesome? Aren't we amazing? It felt more like they were trying to tout that they did it than they did actually putting the work into doing it. So it's like trying to take credit for something that you only put like a 20% effort into, if that makes sense. You know, trying to claim, I did this, and then what you did wasn't that impressive. But again, I'm over relationships in Modern Who anyway. I really, really hope the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday aren't in a relationship. I'd rather them just be friends, because I'm just ready for the Doctor and the companion to travel again and be friends. I feel like we're due that at this point. Now, I do like the 11th Doctor, out not counting River Song, because that doesn't work. I do like the 11th Doctor when the companion likes him, though, because he doesn't know how to deal with it. But unlike with Tennant and Martha, and with 13 and Yaz, it's funny when the way he does it. Like when Amy is attracted to him early on in Series 5, and I'm glad they did drop that before Series 6. You know, she did realize she loved Rory. But it's kind of funny, like when she's trying to hit on him and he doesn't quite know how to respond. Like when she tries to kiss him, and he's like, but I'm over 900, so you're saying it's been a while. And then when he tries to confront Rory by busting out of the cake at his bachelor party, look, your girlfriend tried to kiss me last night. Oh, no, it's okay, she's a great kid. I love that, because I love the idea that Matt's doctor has no idea how to deal with that kind of thing, with flirtation, with physical interest. That amuses me immensely, and I love it even more with Clara. That's my favorite. If I had to pick like a favorite relationship the Doctor's ever had, it's him and Clara. Now, I've complained a lot about Clara, but most of the time I'm complaining about Capaldi with Clara, and that's not anything against either of the actors or even their chemistry together. I just don't like the way Clara is written most of the time in Capaldi's era, but I love her here. I love the flirtatious nature she has with 11. It's so much fun because she constantly feels like she's in control of the dialogue there, and it's funny. I've talked before about that, especially in like Bells of St. John, when they're talking and he's like, well, I thought you young people, you'd be out, dancing. And she's like, what, dance with you, down boy? And he's like, no. I've mentioned that on the channel several times. There's a lot of that in their run where they have those little flirty encounters, especially early. You see it a lot in Asylum of the Daleks between her and 11 when they're talking sometimes. And she has very much this kind of flirty way she talks to him. And I love that because he doesn't know how to deal with it. And it just amuses the heck out of me. I love it. I love watching 11 have to deal with someone flirting with him. I mean, there's a few times where it's like that with other doctors. I like in Partners in Crime when he's trying to get like the facts or the number from the girl, and she does the thing about you be health, I'll be safety, and it takes him a while. He's like, here, let me give you my number, and he's like, what for? And she's like, you be health, I'll be safety. He's like, that's kind of funny too. But 11's my favorite. He just doesn't seem to. It amuses me, and I'm a guy who likes to laugh. So if I had to pick like a favorite romantic thing, it's probably 11 with Clara. Because it makes me laugh. I love the 11th Doctor just not knowing how to react to Clara when she's being flirtatious. They have such good chemistry together. I really wish we had gotten another season of them, like a full season of Matt and Clara together. I think that would have been amazing, instead of what ended up being done with Clara's character, which makes me grind my teeth. So yeah, I really would prefer the Doctor go back to just like the classic series. It's a companion, it's a doctor, they travel together, no romance stuff. They're just good friends. I'm fine with that. Or they have a paternal thing, or they have like their cousins, or something like Classic Who. I want a return more to how they are in Classic Who. But if they have to have any kind of thing, give me another Doctor where the companion likes to flirt and hit on him and the Doctor just doesn't know how to handle it. That amuses me. I love that. So I want to know what you think and what you thought of this video. So comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to go ahead and click that subscribe button. My goal for 2023 is to reach 1,000 subscribers. We're working our way to that. So if you like my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Click the like button as well. That helps me with the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate that. I also have a Patreon that helps me keep the bills paid, and I certainly would appreciate any help with that. There's a link to that down in the description below. You get early access to a lot of videos, a good lot of videos. You get exclusive videos, including the full unedited versions of reactions, because the versions of reactions that come up for stuff here are edited down. So you get the full unedited version of that. And plenty of other fun stuff as well, including polls to vote in. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have a P.O. box. If there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review, that's down there as well, as is a link to my Amazon wish list. I update that regularly. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching, and happy Valentine's Day.